Heaven is a place that lives within us as well. And we can go there in a heartbeat. We can go there with a thought. We can go there with an intention. So, with that in mind, I want to share 3 spiritual powers for manifesting heaven. Now, these spiritual powers have been hidden in plain sight. And every once in a while, it's important for us to remind ourselves of these 3 spiritual powers and to remind ourselves to use them regularly. So let's just get right to it. The 3 spiritual powers that we can use to create heaven on earth, to create heaven right now, and to remember that, as Jesus said, know ye not that the kingdom of heaven lives within you. The 3 spiritual powers we can use are the power of intention, the power of anticipation, and the power of expectation. Let us repeat those again. The power of intention, the power of expectation, and the power of anticipation. Now again, these powers have been hidden in plain sight. We've forgotten about them, and we have negated them somewhere in the cavities of our minds, even though we know that these powers exist. They've been covered over just like a cavity gets covered over with a filling. And every once in a while, you know those fillings that you got back in 1984, there might still be some decay that's been under them and you need another drilling. Well, we want to drill these ideas deeply into our consciousness so that the cavities of our minds that have forgotten them remember that we have the power. For as we anticipate the new light in this Advent season, we have the power to do what we choose with this new light. And as metaphysicians, we realize that we have the power to shape our experience, and we are no longer victims of experiences that seem to happen outside of us and outside of our control. So let us take our power back this season. Let us seize the light that we celebrate this season. Let us understand our own power during this season of light, which is actually this season of creation and recreation. And let us use these 3 powers to manifest our heaven here on earth. First, let's talk about the power of intention. And this is so important because quite often, without intention, we believe that the world just waves in and out and the world just happens to us. But you, as the beloved of God, you can intend. And when you are intending, you can create. So let us be more mindful and let us be more deliberate. Spirit has been working with me recently. Every time I start a new phase of my experience, whether it be just getting out of bed, whether it be having breakfast, whether it be to do something after breakfast, or whether it be to order and prioritize my tasks, Spirit has been reminding me quite assiduously, what is your intention here? And the reason that Spirit has been reminding me every time I start something new, what is your intention here? They are really reminding me, and by default reminding you, that you have the power to envision your intention. You have the power to speak your intention. You have the power to set your intention with God. And if you don't know your intention, ask God, what is our intention here? What is the intention that would yield the most peace, joy, and happiness? Because you know God's will for you is peace, joy, and happiness. And set it. And not only has Spirit been working with me to set an intention for every discrete act and experience during my day, Spirit has been working with me to sanctify that intention. And this is something we can all do. Not only shall you set your intention for every aspect of your life, which reestablishes your power, your say in the matter, what you desire to create, and sends out the energy of your desire so that that can be returned to you in reflection, to sanctify it, to add the power of God's grace that you possess. Remember, you are a channel for the light of God. Remember, you are a vessel for the light of God. Remember that the light of God is love, and it pours through you in infinite supply with infinite power to create. And when you sanctify your intention, what you are doing is saying, no, this is not just me, little me who has been a victim all my life, little me who has had trauma and issues and challenges. This is the me that is at one with God, and me and God, and the power of God sets this intention. And so you've got the backing of the power that created heaven and earth. So sanctify your intention. And Dawn gave us an excellent example of sanctifying our intention earlier during this program, where we collectively drew in the powerful spiritual energy of an intention for a good holiday, and we bathed in that power. We relished that power. We rejoiced in that power, and then we shared that power. That was a simple and powerful example of sanctifying your intention. And then, once your intention is sanctified, let your actions guide your intention. And this is extremely important because this is what happens during our day. We set all these grandiose intentions, and then the phone rings. And then something interesting comes on TV. And then we think about somebody who got on our nerves. And the next thing that you know, our intentions just dissolve. But let our actions guide our intentions. And there's a simple example of this. Let the dishes wait. And what I mean by that is one morning I set all these wonderful intentions, right? And I let Spirit work with me, and I let Spirit talk to me, and I let Spirit guide me until I looked in my sink and saw all my dirty breakfast dishes. And I thought it couldn't get better than this. Spirit had been working with me and working with me and working with me, and I thought it can't get much better than this. And I looked at the dishes and I said, well, I got to do something mundane here. Let me just clean up these dishes. Spirit said, let the dishes wait. I've got more for you. And I listened for once. And I went back into my meditation room, and all of a sudden, Spirit lifted me higher than I had ever been. It was almost like that Jackie Wilson song, Your Love is Lifting Me Higher Than I've Ever Been Lifted Before. And in that moment when I thought it couldn't get much higher, just like the lyrics of that song, Baby, Light My Fire, Baby, we couldn't get much higher. God took me higher because I let the dishes wait. And that embodied the idea, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else shall be added unto you. And so the lesson for all of us is to use the power of intention to sanctify that intention, to let the dishes wait and let the intention guide your actions. Is the intention of your day, the intention of your moment, the intention of the experience guiding your actions? Or is something else pulling you away from that? Do not let yourself be pulled away from that. That which is pulling you away from that will get done twice as easily, more effectively, and more efficiently if you stay with your intention, for your intention fuels all other actions. So you can begin manifesting your heaven and earth by using the power of intention. But it's not only intention, it's also the power of expectation. How many times has something happened and someone said to you, well, what did you expect? And I'll share with you a very brief but funny story about that. My first house many years ago, it had an attic with only rafters and that itchy pink stuff. And then underneath that was the drywall to the floor beneath. And I had to go and do something in the attic. And I said to my friend, watch me fall through the ceiling. So I went there to do the thing I meant to do, which was to crank up the attic fan. And I slipped and I fell through the ceiling, hanging onto the rafters, my feet dangling in the laundry room underneath. He came to the laundry room and he heard all this commotion, saw my feet dangling and me upstairs just like that movie, The Money Pit. And he said, what did you expect? You said you were going to fall through the ceiling. And I fell through the ceiling. Understand this. You are not expecting, you are creating. So manage your expectations. Sanctify your expectations. Call God into your expectations and expect the unexpected best. You see, when you call God into your expectations, and this goes to Reverend Cynthia Tootle's outrageous affirmations, God can see around the corners. God is the power of heaven and earth. God is the power within us that can create our experience. If we allow that power in, if we merge with that power, if we remember that we are one with that power, if we continually and habitually draw that power in and draw that power through until we realize that we are one with that power and that power has been waiting to work through us, that we would be the lights that create heaven on earth. So we sanctify our expectations and we expect the unexpected best. No matter how much in our human lives we have been traumatized, no matter how much in our human lives we have been told no, no matter how much in our human lives we have been we have thought ourselves to be less than. When we sanctify our intentions, we can expect the unexpected best. We can expect, instead of failure, we can ask, what if I succeed? And we can expect that instead of frustration, what if I am fulfilled instead of frustrated? We can expect that instead of lack, what if I were to experience abundance? We can expect, instead of disappointment, what if my expectations are met beyond measure, because God, who works with me, through me, and as me, wants my expectations to be met beyond measure. We can use this power of expectation and sanctify our expectations to create our expectation, because anything you expect is what you will create. And that's how we work with it in the mind. But there is another energy that we can work with as well, and that is the power of anticipation. Let's understand this more deeply just by understanding the word. Anticipation is two words put together. Ante, which means before, not anti as against, but ante, A-N-T-E, like the anteroom, the room before the room, antebellum, before the rebellion. Anticipation is that same root, before. The participation is pater, to father, to sire, to create. So anticipation is actually creating it before it's created. That's what anticipation is. You create it in your mind. You create it in your energy. You create it with your vision. You create it with your intention. You create it with your expectancy. And the power of anticipation helps you to understand that whatever it is that you are anticipating is whatever it is you are creating. And so, how can you sanctify the power of anticipation? You can do so by dancing in advance. Whatever it is that you are choosing to create, whatever it is you are choosing to manifest, dance in advance, just like King David. So, let me tell you the story about King David. King David was expecting the Ark of the Covenant. That was the physical representation of God's promise to all of us for our good, for our safety, for our abundance, for our peace, and for our protection. Symbolically, he was expecting God's promise to be fulfilled. Now, wouldn't we all love that God's promise to us in this covenant would be fulfilled? Absolutely. So he had these guys who he got a message, and the way he got this message was these guys were running, and each one would run 26 miles and then hand off the message. That way he got the message in anticipation of the actual physical arrival of the Ark of the Covenant. So you know what these 26 guys running 26 miles meant. That was where we got the marathon and the relay. And that was how they did messages before the internet or before psychic development. So he went to the temple once he got the message, and he already started dancing in advance. He started dancing so hard that he danced his robes off, like some of you who remember the disco era would dance so hard that you danced your clothes off in the middle of the dance floor. But King David was in the temple dancing in advance because he knew what he was anticipating was the answer to a prayer. And he sanctified that anticipation. He welcomed that anticipation. He created the energetic environment for what he was anticipating to manifest by dancing in advance. And this is a symbol for all of us. Create the energetic environment for what you intend. Create the energetic environment for what you expect. Using the power of anticipation. Dance in advance. Think it in advance. Vision it in advance. Hold it in advance. Ask how you would feel in advance. See it in advance. Live it in advance. Be it in advance. Speak it in advance. And that which you dance in advance of is that which you create, that which you allow, and that which you manifest. And now is the time, because now is the time that the power of heaven and earth lives within your voice. Now is the time that the power of heaven and earth lives within your heart. Now is the time that the power to create heaven and earth lives within your energy. You have done the work. You have evolved. You have expanded. You have intended. You have expected the best. And now we can all dance in advance for the best. No matter how it looks outside of us, there is something within us that is creating our good. And that something within us is the light of God within us that is joined with the light of God in all things that wills our good. And now in this period and in this season of creation, in this season of light, there is a special light available to each and every one of us. And we can dance in advance and we can manifest this heaven on earth because it has nothing to do with anything going on outside of us. It has everything to do with what is going on within us. And within us collectively there is light. Within us collectively there is love. Within us collectively there is hope. Within us collectively there is peace. And within us collectively there is the well-being of knowing that God's covenant would be fulfilled. So we can dance in advance. And these three spiritual powers can create a sense of well-being within us that is heaven right now. Dance in advance. Use the power of intention, use the power of expectation, and use the power of manifestation to dance in advance. Now is the time. You've got the power. Thank you very much.